Whatever is happening in the world, our senses gather that information and dump it in the mind. So what's happening is when I focus on the microphone and an image of the microphone, a mental image of the microphone is created. Light is reflected from the microphone, it goes into the eyes, and from the eyes through the optic nerves. Whatever we see in the world, it's very interesting. Whatever we see in the world, people, animals, plants, just sky and earth, all that goes into the eyes is just light, reflected light. That's all it can collect. And then there an image is formed. And then from there, even the image is not there anymore. After that, just it's tiny bursts of electricity racing along your optic nerves to certain brain centers. And then what happens? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I mean, scientifically nobody knows. We all know practically what happens. We get a mental image. At that moment, I get the feeling here, I am seeing a microphone.
How do you experience anything? How do you know anything? How do you know I am sitting here? Because your eyes pick up this image. Remember how sight works? It's fascinating. And it really makes an interesting point. The point that it makes eventually is that you do not directly see the Swami sitting in this chair. Absolutely not. You do not directly see the Swami sitting in his chair. Why? Do you remember in a science class when you learned about how eyesight works? It begins with light bouncing off the object, striking your eyes. On the front of your eyes are two lenses. Those lenses focus the image on the retina of your eye, which is in back of the eye. And if you remember, the lenses also invert the image. So first thing that I find very interesting is right now, on the back of your eyeballs are two 1/4-inch tall, upside down Swamis. Correct? Absolutely correct. On the back of your eyeballs are two 1/4-inch tall, upside down Swamis. Then things get more complicated. As you remember, the retina has all these sensors, the so-called rods and cones, which convert this optical light into nerve impulses. These nerve impulses go from the right eye into the optical cortex and left part of the brain, goes from the left eye to the optical cortex and the right part of your brain. This is getting very confusing. Already we got two Swamis. They're upside down, 1/4-inch tall, and they're backwards because this optical nerve does this crisscross. Is that what you see? Upside down, 1/4-inch tall, backwards. That's not what you see. So the one that you see, first of all, is not the one that's out here, which is the first step. Then we come to the next step. Your eyes pick up through this very complex process, and the eyes then convey to your brain all these nerve impulses. Is that what you're experiencing right now? Nerve impulses? You see me. The me that you're seeing is not out here on the chair. It's in your mind. An image of me has been fashioned in your mind. Now, I went through this process to illustrate. These are three completely different levels. There are objects outside in the world. They're 3 steps removed. Because these objects outside in the world, first of all, have to be picked up by these really complex sensors we have, eyes and ears and our other senses. Every one of the senses are incredibly complex, the way that they work. And then even the senses, all they pick up is nerve impulses, right? So those nerve impulses are not what you perceive. Those nerve impulses go to the brain, and through a miracle that no one quite understands fully yet, as a result of all these inputs to the brain, an image of me is formed in your mind. That's the 3rd step. And the image of me in your mind is known to whom? The simple answer is to whoever is seeing it. That person is called Sakshi, witness or observer. The one who witnesses the activities of the mind. We're describing your experience, right? Now you know it's not so straightforward. 5 minutes ago, you thought you were looking at me. If you've understood what we just discussed, you should now conclude that you are not looking at me directly. Rather, you are seeing an image of me in your mind. The only thing you experience directly is the contents of your own mind. The world outside is experienced indirectly by means of your senses. Only the contents of your mind is experienced by you directly. This is extremely important. That's not exactly how we commonly think, right? And this is what Vedanta does so brilliantly. It challenges our usual conclusions about our experience.
And so what is in the mind? The image taken from outside of this room through the eyes is recreated in the mind. And that's what we see. Modern science, physiology, psychology, they are all in agreement in this. We are not directly seeing the things of this room. All that is entering the eyes is light. Just light. That's what the eyes are designed to take in. And the eyes convert that into certain images, and that is again converted into something entirely different from light and images. It's converted into electrical impulses through our optic nerves, which it takes it to the brain. Somehow, we have almost no idea what happens there. Modern science yet cannot explain. Somehow, this whole thing is recreated in the brain. And somehow, in our minds, we do not experience seeing things in the brains. We are not experiencing neurons and blood flow and thing in the brain. No, not at all. We are experiencing our minds. And that's again a fact. It's not an argument. It's not a theory. That's what we are experiencing. In our minds, the entire world is appearing. What we see with our eyes is appearing in our minds. It's all that we see is in our minds right now. And there in our minds, consciousness illumines it. I am not denying that there may be a world outside with a real glass of water and real people outside. I am not advocating what is in philosophy called a subjective idealist position. I'm not saying that. That may be true, may not be true. What I'm saying right now is indisputable. All that we experience throughout our lives, we experience as recreations in our mind. So, we are the light which illumines, which lights up all our experiences. Which experiences? Not just experiences in the mind. Everything outside is taken into the mind and experienced in the mind with the light of consciousness. I'm saying light of consciousness because that's the language he has used here. You can call it light, you can call it consciousness. It does not mean a material light. So that's what we are.